Yo, melanated family. How is my family doing, man, on this good Sunday evening? So, today, this evening, this good Sunday evening, we're going to get into something specific, right? All my young black men, gather around. You're a single mom who got young black men in your life. You got a nephew, a little cousin, any of that type of situation. You're two parents who got a young man and you've been giving him game on how to maneuver in the dating game. And, maybe he ain't been paying attention to you, or maybe he don't think it's as serious as you're saying. We'll bring him on over to Uncle Harrison. You feel me? I'm going to get him right. Because today, what we're going to talk about is how to prepare a young man for the dating game, right? This is now what we need to realize, all of us, black folks, I'm talking to all my melanated family out there, we need to realize how important the dating game is. We need to realize how important who our children decide to mate with, decide to spend time with. This is important, and it's a reflection on them. You know what I mean? So let's get into it, because on my platform, I come on here a lot and I talk about the racism that we face, all of the injustices that we have to go through, anything going on with our community, we talk about, right? And then I typically end it with, like, what are we going to do as a melanated person in this country? What are you going to do to circumvent some of the behavior you see from people outside of our community against us? Because as we can see with the mass shootings, police brutality, all these things that go on in America, as it relates to melanated people, the powers that be don't typically do shit for us, right? So all of my conversations are going to be based around what we can do for each other, like what we can do to help our children, what we can do for the future generations, what we can do, right? So this conversation is specific because the inception of some of the things we see that we don't like in the black community, like this, the inception of some of the behaviors we see in the community from the individuals, at times it's solely based on who we choose to mate with. So who your young man chooses to spend time with, who he chooses to have a baby with, these things are revolutionary. These things are beyond life-changing, especially for us. You see what I'm saying? So I'm gonna have a little fun with it, but gather all your young men around. If you got a son, you have a nephew, give them this information today, family. We're going to talk about how do we prepare a young man for the dating game, right? Because in my opinion, family, and all of us should know this, when it comes to a man and a woman interacting with each other, typically it's the man who approaches the woman. Typically it's the man who starts the situation. Typically it's the man who leads in a particular direction. You see what I'm saying? So when I see a dude, if you have a problem and you're having a baby mama problem, you're having a problem with a woman you dating. Of course, women go through things. Some women kind of crazy, all this different shit. But a lot of times it's your fault. And today we're going to talk about some of the things that young men need to do to make sure they put themselves in the best position to be successful in the dating game, procreate in the best scenario possible, right? Because you're not just like dating a woman. This is some real shit, y'all. Dating a woman, your young man is having sex. You better be assertive with addressing how he's dealing with these things. This means making sure he has a condom. This means having these talks about the seriousness of going about dealing with the opposite sex the wrong way. Like being in a sexual relationship with a woman under the wrong circumstances could be detrimental to your entire future. And a lot of men don't focus on this enough. Don't focus on get back to the fundamentals of how you have to approach things to put yourself in the best position to be helpful to not just your family and your lineage, but all of us. You know what I mean? So let's get into it. Right? So we're talking to young black men today. So all my single mothers, even if you a family where you got some dad, mom, y'all got kids, this is still game everybody can use. You feel me? So And a lot of this is coming from, just to preference this, what I see from our young men today. Like when I look at the generations of Black men in America, I personally feel it's getting worse, just as far as the level of hard work, the commitment to particular things, how we interact. It's changing, and some of it's getting worse. But we're going to address it today, right? So, all my parents out there, first thing we need to do, right? If we want our men, because I know we're talking about dating. The topic of the show is how do we prepare our young men for the dating game? But all of this is going to make sense here in a minute, right? So how do you prepare your young man to court a woman? The first thing we have to do with young men that are in your house, young men that you are close with in your family, young men have to get familiar with hard work. Some level of hard work has to be instituted in their schedule so they can get used to this. Any man, I don't care how successful you're going to be, whether it be just at your job or in the business forum, a particular level of hard work and dedication is always going to be necessary, right? And this has everything to do with dating as well. Because if we're talking about a young man taking a woman out, being the best possible fit for a woman, hard work has to be there. Like there's no way around that, right? We're going to get into some other stuff in a minute, but there's no way around that. So if you have a young man, the first thing you have to institute is some form of hard work. This can be with sports. That's why we use sports a lot. Sports teaches hard work, leadership, how to follow orders, all these things. You can try sports. You can try getting him a male role model if there's no father around. All of these type of things can help family. You can start with making sure he has particular chores. If you want him to cut the grass, you want to make sure his room is clean. You want to find a spot in your house that needs to be cleaned out. The point is, a young man needs to understand the value of hard work. Too many young men now, Black men specifically, like I'm speaking about my community, Black people specifically, Black young men specifically, they don't value hard work. They not all, too many of them don't value hard work, don't understand the need of like just the simple premise of getting the job, how beneficial this can be. You see what I'm saying? So as parents, as elders, it's our job to lead our young men in the right direction. So the topic of the show, y'all, today is how should we or how should young men approach the dating game? So we're going to get our young men right. Because a lot of times I come on here and we're talking about police brutality, we're talking about mass shootings, we're talking about genocide, we're talking about all these different things that are negatively affecting our community. We're talking about wealth, like how much we actually own in this country. Did a show the other day about reparations, the fact that this country owes us money. Believe it or not, if you want your young man to participate in this movement in a healthy manner, if you want him to proceed in life in a healthy manner where the things I just mentioned don't affect him as much, it's imperative that he picks the right partner. It's imperative that he has kids with the right woman. You see what I'm saying? And all of these things can be taught. Like there's things you can talk to your kids about, talk to your young men about. That'll give them a better perspective on how to approach the dating game, family. So let's get into it. So like I said, first thing is hard work. Some type of hard work. You got to work them. You got to make them do the dishes. You got to make them go outside and mow the lawn. You got to make them do some type of like strenuous work. And this is something I'm learning, family. Being like, y'all need to realize, me being a man with 5 kids, started off hella early. I always talk about my story, but have perfected things. There are certain things I wasn't aware of, certain things I'm getting better at, but I'm bringing all of that to y'all because these are things we all need to be aware of. You know what I mean? So some amount of hard work. Now, if it's 2 parents in a home, typically a father can take care of some of this, making sure he does strenuous chores, making sure if you do some type of strenuous work, you bring them with you. If it's just a woman, maybe a little more difficult, but you still have to institute, and I call it tough love, basically, because putting your kid in a position to be successful sometimes, like seeing what they may need in a particular moment that they don't see, this is us loving our children, and they may not like it. They may not want to, but who gives a shit what they want when it comes to certain things? See? So we need to prepare our young men for the dating game, make sure they pick the right woman. we got to make sure you got a hardworking man, right? You got to make sure your young man is working hard. So we know when he gets a family, if and when he decides to procreate, if and when he decides to move out of your house and get a woman or whatever, you'll know, okay, he'll be cool because he's willing to work hard. You see what I'm saying? So hard work is definitely important. Something I should have probably said first too. And I see this all too often, unfortunately. Black family, like Black parents, make sure your young man knows how to groom himself. Make sure your young man understands the importance of brushing his damn hair, making sure he brushes his damn teeth, clothes is ironed, not wrinkled, cologne. You see what I'm saying? All of these, because we're talking about like his potential in the dating game. Like when he finally procreates and bring you home a grandchild, how do you want your legacy to continue? I don't think we think about a lot of these things enough. Now, of course, we need to be preparing ourselves as well when talking about how should a young man approach things. If we have young men, of course, we should be in a position where we have a solid relationship, a solid structure, resources, all these things. That goes without saying, but we're talking specifically about the young men, right? So boom, make sure he's working hard. Make sure he appreciates grooming himself, whatever that may be. Make sure he takes a little time getting himself ready. You know what I mean? Paying attention to the details. Do my nails need to be cut? Did I put on deodorant today? Like, let's be honest. Young men are pretty fucking nasty for the most part. You know what I mean? Like most young dudes, when it comes to their room, how they take care of certain things, it's kind of a griminess that comes with it. You know what I mean? And I think that goes beyond all races, but I'm talking specifically about my young brothers. Make sure they know how to groom themselves. Make sure they take pride in how they look. Now, I'm not one for the buying all the goddamn new pair of Jordans and you don't got a 401k or you don't got a savings or any of that. I'm not on that type of shit, but your kid should look nice. Now, a misnomer is, and this is my Black family, everybody in my community need to realize this. It does not cost a lot of money to make sure your child looks decent. I repeat, it does not cost a lot of money to make sure your child looks decent. Sometimes we get it fucked up and we begin to, because of like how our communities have been subjugated, specifically because of how this society has made us feel about ourselves, a lot of us will mask that with materialism. And let's not start that on your kids. If you have the disposable income, do whatever you want to do. But just know your kid don't have to have on the Jordans. Like the Jordans in the latest fashions aren't necessary to make your child feel good about themselves. They have to be clean. The shoes have to be clean. The shoes have to be clean but newer. Like you have to make sure they understand the value of making sure your shoes are clean, making sure you look a particular way when you leave the house. This is important. Like all too often, just to keep it real, like being in a store in my neighborhood and seeing a young man in front of me with his pants down to his fucking ankles. To me, this is a parenting situation to a degree, because you see how they live. You see how they leave when they, you see how they leave the house. You see the importance of like a belt, different things like this. A parent can step in and say, this just don't look right. Like, unfortunately, being Black in America, you're judged. All of us are judged by the actions of one sometimes. This isn't fair. I'm not saying I agree with this, but all too often, one of us will get judged by how another one looks. I think we should all take this into consideration. And as parents, prepare your kids for this. So he is grooming himself the proper way, taking time, whatever hairstyle he likes, but he got to brush his damn hair. All too often, I'm seeing 6, 7, 8-year-olds at 10 in the morning without their goddamn hair brushed. I'm like, people may think this is small. This is actually significant, family. How you look, caring about how you look goes into everything. Goes into how you treat people, goes into how you treat yourself. So make sure your son is being groomed. Make sure he's familiar with cologne at an early age, right? He needs to take pride in how he looks. Because again, today on the show, we're talking about how do we get young Black men ready for dating? How do we get a young man like in the right mindset to be the future like leader of our community, because when we look at everything, what I'm talking about right now correlates to everything that happens. Like 3-4 weeks in my I live in Sacramento, California. Maybe like a month and a half, 2 months ago, there was a shooting where, you know, young black men were shooting at each other. 6, 7, 8 people got killed or shot, something like that. When we look at all of the ills of our community, how we start our families plays a large part in how all of this works out. So first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna make sure he works hard. We're gonna have him cutting the grass. We're gonna have him washing the dishes. We're gonna have him doing something to let him gain a value of hard work. So when it's time for him to work, he ain't gonna be just a dude sitting on his ass. You see what I'm saying? Think about this. Like, we have to prepare the young men. All too often, I see young men in their life, in their young adulthood, not doing shit with themselves. And sometimes the parent doesn't correlate that to what you did or didn't do. Granted, some people are just lazy, shiftless, don't want to do nothing. Most times, you can put your kid in a position to be successful if you focus on certain things. You feel me? So hard work, grooming yourself. Also, once your kid starts having sex, like once they start taking a liking to the opposite sex, you have to begin to make sure they know the prioritizing structure of said things. For instance, all too often, young men in America, black men specifically, they focus on having sex. They focus on the feminine nature of a woman. They focus on everything a woman is and lose sight of what they're supposed to be doing. This happens all the time. Once young dudes get some pussy, finally, they lose their goddamn mind. The better of us, the more successful of us, right? Just talking men in general, we know how to discipline ourselves. You have to get to a state of discipline. Your young man needs to learn this early. So his priority should always be his sports, school, extracurricular activities, anything he's doing outside of keeping the company of the opposite sex. That should be secondary, third. Like, that shouldn't be first. He should grasp the concept that any type of woman I want, like for any man out there, this is some real shit. Any type of woman you want, you can have. It's all based on who you are. It's all based on how you prepare yourself. This is all on you. You see what I'm saying? When I'm looking at some of the dysfunctions in our community, when it comes to our families, we know all the systematic indifferences we had to go through. All that shit's still in play now. It's affecting us. But as men, we are the leaders of the community. We the leaders of the family. This is real shit. So how we start our families have a lot to do with how we think. So you got to get your young man in a particular mindset. And all too often, we see young men who ain't motivated, who doing things a particular way. You got to get on that shit as early as possible. You see what I'm saying? So grooming yourself, hard work, prioritizing the opposite sex. Women shouldn't come before anything important you're doing in your life. Young men should learn this early. Young men got to go to practice. They got to go to an after school program, whatever you got them in. They need to get familiar with knowing, okay, I have to do these things first before I engage with the opposite sex. See, this is important. All too often, we have young men who haven't mastered the art of discipline, haven't mastered the art of working hard to get something, right? They ain't pushing to do nothing. So then they master the art of fucking. And that's how they're feeling wanted. That's how they're feeling in control. That's how they feel like they're on top of things to a degree by manipulating women, having sex with women. Some men use sex as like a tool to negate for the fact that they ain't doing shit in their life. This happens, family. This happens. And then when that happens, oftentimes then we see a dude with two kids, 3 kids, 4 kids, 5 kids. This is somebody who hasn't disciplined themselves enough to understand where I'm going in my life. Like, my lineage, what I do with myself is more important than the intimate feeling I get from a female. Like, of course, you can't, black family, you're not going to get your teenage son away from the fact that he likes the opposite. Maybe the same sex, I don't know. But you're not going to get him away from the fact that he likes the opposite sex. That's going to happen. How he prioritizes it, how he approaches women, these are all things you can control. These are all things we're going to get into today. So he's prioritizing his life. I have school, work, whatever I'm doing, then my little relationship comes into play. And if you have a child that's motivated about some type of creative endeavor, make sure they focus in on that, because men need to realize if you focus on your career, if you focus on being successful, if you focus on being the best version of yourself, you can get any woman you want. See, that's the goddamn joke. A lot of men spend a lot of time chasing pussy when you should have been chasing money. You should have been chasing success, whatever that means to you. This could be working a job, starting a business, whatever it may be, but putting yourself in a position where you don't need anyone financially, putting yourself in a position where you control your environment. This is the best situation to be in when starting a relationship with a woman, being in a position of power, not in control of her, but completely in control of yourself. If you're not in control of who you are, if you don't know who you are, if you, like some of us in our community dealing with hella trauma and shit, you haven't nailed down what's going on with you and begin to address it, this makes for like a toxic environment for relationships, family. We engage in relationships the complete wrong way. The shit happens too much, family. And we Black, we already don't have wealth. We already 14% of the population. We already have to deal with these laws and systemic racism that has always affected us. So procreating the wrong way, starting your family the wrong way, all of these things is going to have a double negative effect on you because you're Black. This is just real shit. See, and all too often we're starting things with, like, we're putting the cart before the horse, as they say. We starting relationships, we're starting having sex, we're starting doing certain things before we begin figuring out who we are. And it's not what you do, but it's how you do it. So young men are going to want to engage with women, but the mom, the dad, is up to you to have that real talk about not just sex, but how to wear a condom, the importance of a condom. Like a condom, like for young men, Black family, your young men should think that there's no way to possibly have sex without a condom. We know sometimes that ain't the case for whatever reason, but if we're talking about lineage, if we're talking about protecting our legacy, if we're talking about creating the best possible future that we can just for Black society, men got to be more responsible what they did. Bottom line. So a condom for a young man should be like a legacy protector. Like he should treat a condom like, without this tool, or if I don't use this tool, I'm gonna fuck my future up. Like it has to be that serious to him. You see what I'm saying? And some of the things I'm telling y'all about, sometimes we mess up by starting like when our kids are teenagers starting when they're a teenager to give them certain information, do some of the things I'm telling you now. This should start way before the teens. This should start 6, 7, 8 years old, maybe even sooner. Like we should all be in the mindset that this young person I'm raising, I have to send him out into the world one day. I don't know if Black parents really grasp that concept. It's not about your house. It's not about how you feel about some of the stuff your son is doing. How is his actions, the kind of person he is, how is that going to affect the population he's going to enter once he's old enough? See, because all too often, speaking specifically about my Black folks, we send kids into the world that ain't about shit. You send your child into the world completely unprepared for relationships, for corporate America, for any of it, and you got the nerve to wonder why he's shooting at niggas? Well, you didn't give him any life skills, man. You didn't find him a mentor if you was a single mom. If you're a two-parent home and it's a father, something didn't go right. We have bad seeds, but typically we make bad seeds by what we feed the seed and what we don't. You know what I mean? So some of this shit is our fault as parents. So when we talk about how to prepare or how should young men approach dating, this is an extremely serious topic because it affects our revolution. It affects our family structure. It affects everything. You see what I'm saying? So wearing a condom, who he mates with, a young man should view this as like, my legacy is on the line if I don't do this the right way. See, it should be that serious to him. You see what I'm saying? And if we're talking about dating, making sure your young man is the best possible mate for young women, relationships aren't just about sex. Well, I know when young people start engaging in sexual activity, it's like all they can think about. It's so awesome to them. They always want to do it. I get it. But if we're talking about an actual relationship where you're happy with someone, ultimately you're living with someone, this, of course, you should be attracted to your mate. Like that goes without saying. But being able to hold a conversation, being able to have common interests, like these are all things the man should be seeking. Like the man should be quantifying. I know her ass is fat. I know she look good. All these things is great. But at the end of the day, all that shit gonna go away. There's gonna come a time where that's not as appealing to you. Your woman has to be able to have a conversation. You have to have common interests. There has to be things. You have to have things that you've already determined you want your woman to have. I don't know. That can be you want her to have a career. You want her to be able to take care of bills. You want her to be smart in particular areas. Whatever that may be. Don't, like, young men can't back away from that. That our future depends on it. Like the future of Black society kind of depends on how we relate with one another. And we have to go here because we can't rely on the government to introduce some bill to put something in place that helps our families enough. That's not what we're gonna do. That's not how we're gonna approach this shit. We're gonna approach it like it's only us. All we got is us. This is how we maneuver because we don't take the time to procreate correctly. Then you got the nerves to be posting about not liking police brutality. You got the nerves to be posting about how the president ain't doing what you want him to do or certain shit ain't happening the way you want in society when you didn't even take the time to procreate the right way. And there is a right way and a wrong way. I'm tired of everybody acting like if you have hella baby mamas, this is just how the world works. No. Quit listening to fucking rappers. No. You can find yourself in a position where you love a woman, you took the time to get to know her, all these things, and you still end up not being in a relationship with her, or you still end up being in a position where you have a kid and y'all not together. This happens, but don't plan it that way. Like the goal should be a 2-parent house structure. That's the goal. Let's stop it. Let's stop. Let's stop acting like any other way is better than 2 parents, 2 able-minded parents raising a kid in the house. That's the epitome of parenthood, family. Sometimes it don't work out that way. But shit, men, because you're the one entering the goddamn vagina, you start all of this. We propose, we get at you in the club. The man starts the transaction between man and woman, for the most part. So it's up to us. Like being disciplined, understanding legacy building, all of this can help you in the dating game. Too many men become completely enamored with pussy and it damn near ruin their life, especially if they're not motivated already, especially if they aren't in a position where they feel like they have power or they haven't learned things about life to put them in that position. Like this is real. This is going to affect all of us, family. So your young man should be aware of this. Your young man should be aware of how important him picking the right mate is. Like how important who he has a child with is. This is going to determine for future generations. I was just talking to a partner of mine about the need to break like generational curses, right? And let's keep it real, family. Of course, statistics say 70% of homes, Black homes, have single mothers in them. Now, if you look deeper into those statistics, you'll see that Black fathers are some of the most active fathers in their kids' life, as far as bringing them to school, playing with them, doing things with them. This is a fact. But the fact remains, we don't have enough children living in the house with their parents. And I'm not going to blame that like specifically or directly on racism. That's how you're choosing to procreate. That's how you're choosing to procreate. So let's get back to the list. I want to make sure I stay on point. So today we're talking about family. How should young men approach the dating game? How should a young Black man approach being involved with a woman, right? Knowing everything, knowing the attack on the Black family, knowing all the obstacles that are put in front of us once we finally decide to mate and procreate with somebody. So a level of preparation has to happen. And us being elders, parents, we got to get in our kids' head. You feel me? And like I was just saying, that like being disciplined means a lot. When young men start having sex, they go crazy damn near. So the best of us knows how to instill it, engage in some of these things, but in the most responsible manner possibly, because being the man, I have to look out for all of us. I have to look out for all parties involved, because if there is a kid that's produced, I'm going to be the one who everyone's looking at that has to take care of the kid, or financially take care of the kid, or direct the progress of the relationship, right? So men, and this is something I wish I would have been aware of as a young dude. That's why I'm always preaching certain shit, because as a young man, I wasn't aware of this. I wasn't aware of how much of a leader I needed to be for my family. I wasn't aware that the temperament of the women around me, for the most part, is allowed by me. If I don't like her temperament, if I don't like something about her, if things aren't working out right in a particular area, sometimes it's based on how the man is maneuvering, right? All men don't have this problem, but it's too big of a problem in our community specifically, because we continue to see young people have kids with people they don't really fucking know. You was just having sex with somebody, now y'all got a child. Neither one of y'all know who you are really. This is an actual problem that we need to address. This whole baby mama, baby daddy shit, we need to divorce that way of thinking. We need to frown upon that even. How about that shit? How about that? Having a baby with a person that you're not in a stable relationship with, is going to cause harm to our community, especially if you have men, speaking specifically to men, especially if you haven't built up any resources, you haven't put yourself in the right mentality to have a family, meaning travel, college, live your life first. Live your life first. Gain perspective, gain knowledge, gain experience in certain things. Then you'll have more of a wealth of knowledge to provide to your kids. This shit works. If we do certain things a particular way, I think the results would be plentiful. Like, we have to at least try it this way. It sounds simple, but all too often it don't happen. Now, I know some black folks we have in our community who got two parents who come from money, who never had to deal with some of these things. I come from urban communities where there's not a lot of money, where there's dope being sold, where there's prostitution going on, where there's a whole bunch of single parent homes. This is my reality as a child. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of times I'm speaking to our lower self almost. Like, all of us don't have these problems. Let's not get it fucked up. But too many of us do. And if we're going to progress as a society, right? If we're going to progress as black people, we have to take the lowest of us and maneuver them up higher. Like, we can't look at fucking Jay-Z and people doing great and use that as a benchmark per se. I think we need to look at who's not doing good: the homeless, the single parents, the people who making $30,000 a year on welfare. We need to look at that section of our society and say, okay, what they doing wrong? How can we help them? Because if we help them, we helping everybody. You get that? If we help the members of our society who struggle with, who can't maneuver around disenfranchisement, who can't muster up enough if you can't like maneuver around this society, right? Like, there's things going on, and young men need to be aware of it. Young men need to know how to grasp what's going on around them just to maneuver the best possible. And how we have our children is having a horrible effect on us, family. We have to be honest about that. So you got a young man in your house, you got a young man around you. These are the things we need to be helping them with, right? So a 2-parent home should be the benchmark. That's something you should preach. Now, here's the thing. Here's the caveat as a parent. I'll go to my parents real quickly. If you were in a situation where you don't live in the house with your kid, and you got a baby mama or a woman outside, that whatever your relationship is, you have to be honest with your kid. You have to say, hey, either I tried my hardest to keep you in the same home with your mom and it didn't work, and this is why that's important though, and talk to them about it, boom, boom, boom. Or I didn't try hard enough to keep you in the same house with your mom when I was younger. This is why you should do it. You need to use your real life and transparency to properly get through to kids. They don't want to hear bullshit. So if you want to help them, you got to be transparent. You got to be real about how shit actually happens out here. And we keep repeating the cycle. So if you want to break cycles, break generational curses, At some point, we got to start doing things differently. See, at some point, we have to start doing things differently. That may start with us, trickling down to our kids, but the process of a different approach to all this shit has to start immediately. You know what I mean? And for young men in the dating game, you got a young black man that's beginning to date. Make sure he's confident with who he is. Make sure he is someone who is putting whatever his work is before his relationship. That way, he won't be so enamored by a woman's looks. Like he won't be so enamored by a woman's physical attributes. Like a man needs to be able to discipline himself to say, okay, this woman in front of me is bad as hell, but that don't mean I'm a trick. That don't mean I'm a risk my livelihood trying to please her or go out of my character to, you see what I'm saying? And what I've learned is if you want to be a man who's not hella phased by an attractive woman, you have to know who you are and you have to be comfortable talking to women. You got to be comfortable talking to women. You got to, and really for young men, real shit, young men should really, before we're talking a kid, having a child and a family, a young man should do a lot of dating. I'm not saying fucking, dating where you're meeting different women, learning the temperaments of women, learning things about women, like experience. Everything you do well takes some experience. Like everything you do well, it would behoove you to get some experience in it. Now, I'm not talking dirty macking and just fucking everything you see. It ain't what you do, it's how you do it. But experience is necessary. How do you know what kind of woman you want if you ain't been with women? Some young men get their first girlfriend, second girlfriend. Now they head over heels for each other, about to have a baby or head over heels, and now they in this long ass relationship. In actuality, a young man in 10th, 11th, 12th grade, he really shouldn't be in no committed ass, focused ass relationship if you think about it. Now, we're not saying go out and be a player and have sex indiscriminately. No, there's a balance, but men should spend all these formidable years focusing on what they're going to be, whatever that is, right? We need to produce the best type of young men for women, right? Because if you got a daughter or a niece, don't you want her to have a dude that's solid, that know how to take care of his family, that stick to his word, that come through when he say he is, that do that is the ideal man? We can produce that if we start focusing on our young men. The young men and young women are important. Like their future, their involvement in things, their level of accountability, man and woman, it's both important. But men, I'm beginning to learn as I get older, it's really on us to a degree because we create the energy. We create the environment. We get married, we move in here, we doing that. Typically, all that's created by the man's energy, or it should. You see what I'm saying? So you're preparing your young man to lead a family, and sometimes single moms, I'll get at y'all for a minute. You will be trying to create the young man you want. Well, that only works if, based on some of the things I'm saying here, you've created a non-toxic list of things you want. You see what I'm saying? So we need to be careful. So again, everybody who's just tuning in, we talking about how do we prepare young men for the dating game? How do we prepare young black men to be the best possible mate for our young black women? And keep it in mind, doing this correctly affects all of us. Making sure, picking the right mate, being a stand-up man who knows the importance of resources, thinking about your legacy, the importance of hard work. If all of our men practice these traits, we wouldn't have many problems. You see what I'm saying? We got to start somewhere, and depending on the system to do anything that's going to positively affect the black family is null and void. Like, that's fantasy at this point, but together we can. You feel me? So make sure he's not just looking at a woman for how she looks. If the woman is beautiful, you need to be confident with yourself. That's all it's about, is confidence. None of that shit matters. At the end of the day, looks fade. A person being a stand-up individual is way more important than how they look. Like making sure that they will ride for you when they need to, able to be responsible, able to tell you the truth, able to have a great dialogue with you. But men, believe me when I tell you, all this shit starts with you. If you got a woman who ain't about nothing, who don't talk about nothing, who y'all ain't got much in common, family, this is your fault. It's your fault. You picked her. We are picking our mates. This is a fact, family. This is a fact. So whatever kind of woman you want, I'm talking looks, physique, mentality, it's all based on you. Because if you don't have those things, you're not going to find it. You see what I'm saying? And that's the bottom line. And this all lends itself to everything young men need to be. Because if we teaching them all of this shit, of course, like I spoke about last week, we also throwing in there, you're going to read a little bit. You're going to be as articulate as you can possibly be. You're going to think outside of the box, gain a new perspective so you can have all, you need all of these things in your tool belt when it comes to courting a woman. Like, you should be able to talk about things. You should be able to give direction about particular things. This is a fact, family. Like, black men need to get back to this. Not all, because we got a lot of black men out here doing this right now. But our young men, if we're looking at the young men that's shooting and killing, we're looking at the young men that come from single parent homes. We're looking at the young men who's shiftless, living off of a female. We all know dudes like this, right? Something probably went wrong in his adolescent stage. Like, when he was a very small child, some of these attributes I'm talking about probably wasn't expressed to him. See? Because we always want to have a bad seed, but typically, I think we're creating bad seeds. That's something we don't want to talk about, right? So we need to start from the basics of making sure he's a solid individual, and all these things will help. So again, having discipline, not being enamored by a woman's looks because you have experience, because you're confident, because you shortly understand looks don't really matter as far as how you approach a woman, how receptive a woman is to your approach. If you approach her the right way, if you're confident, how she look don't matter. You see what I'm saying? So be focused on whatever your goals are in life. Don't allow the beauty of a woman, the sex of a woman, to put you in a position where now you neglecting your responsibilities. Now you reorganizing your goddamn priorities in your life for a woman. None of this should ever happen. Teach a young man. We don't need no simps out here. And that's real talk right there. We don't need no simps. We don't need no young men who will do anything for sex, who will position himself in any way possible just to get the attention of a woman. Nah, that's not gonna be necessary. And as we move forward, you see what I'm saying? Because, like, just on some real shit, on like some hood shit down there, teach your young men using your money. Let's say you do got a young man who becomes successful with his job, with his business, or whatever. Nothing replaces conversation and confidence. Nothing replaces that, because we got men out here, let's keep it real, who gonna throw their money at the situation. He ain't got a mouthpiece. He can't really articulate himself. He ain't really got a point of view about shit. But what he do got is money. That's simp behavior, and it is tricking if you got it. Like, don't let the rappers get it fucked up where you're just where it seems as if they're spending a enormous amount of money on a woman. Let's keep everything in perspective. If you like a woman and you feeling her, y'all together, and you got money and you want to spend it on her in any way possible, that's your money. But to get a woman's attention, to spend money to get a woman's attention, spending money to get a woman to like you, spending money to get a woman to be in your presence, this is all sucker shit to me. Like, just on some, no young man should approach dating in this manner. You know what I mean? Not only will they probably get taken advantage of, but they'll end up being in a situation where they get divorced, you get in half. All this because you a sucker for love. Like, the way to prevent being a sucker for love is to love your goddamn self. That's how it starts. To love yourself. Be motivated by what you got going on. Be so enthralled in your business, your work, your whatever you got going on your own. No woman will be able to move you to the point where you feeling like you got to trick all your money, or you feeling like she's not going to do something if you don't give her money. This is trick behavior. And if you got a son, men that's listening to me, if you got a son, let's teach our young men to be honorable. Like, I don't like that type of exchange in society, because if that's the case, he could just go get a prostitute if that's the case. But if we're talking a woman you're going to be in a relationship with, mating with, having kids with, nah, money is important. But men who lead with money often are lacking other things. And that's to the detriment of all of us. Because some of these dudes we see all the time, an NBA player or NFL player get to the NFL and now he got 4, 5, 6 kids by different women. They getting them for all these amounts of child support. This is a dude who really wasn't put up on game when he was younger, or not used to having a whole bunch of women. See, like I said about the beautiful women thing, if you're not used to being around a woman who's attractive, this happens to all men. You may end up being all fidgety, may end up not knowing what to say. All sucker behavior. This is all sucker shit. Like all men should be purpose based. Like, what's your purpose on this earth, family? You're on a mission to find that shit out as soon as possible. Some of us find it at 8. Some of us find it at 28, whatever, but that should be your mission. And if that's your mission and that's what you exhibit, women will see that and they'll like it. See how it all works together. You see what I'm saying? So if you know a young man out there who's sleeping on a bitch couch, if you know a young man out there who living off a woman, if you know a man out there who got 3, 4 women but ain't got a job, this is toxic behavior that's going to possibly negatively affect all of us, because these two people will procreate. This young person they produce will either be someone who doesn't abide by the law at all, someone who goes out into society and wreaks havoc. And how does that help any of us? See, so we parents need to start stepping the fuck up. We let too many parents off the hook. Oh, my son, he's shooting everything. Oh my God, I don't know why he acting like that. A lot of times you didn't do your job as a parent. Let's keep it real. This parenting thing, there's no handbooks for it. There's no right or wrong sometimes, but we need to take it more serious. We need to take the preparation part more serious. As Black people, we can't deny that fact. Too much shit goes on in our communities where I say, wait a minute, I'm not going to blame this on this child. I'm not going to blame it on the child. There are adults around who ain't doing what the fuck they're supposed to do. You see what I'm saying? So all of these things I mentioned, rewind it if you haven't heard some of this. These are all some of the steps we need to take to making sure our young men are prepared for dating, like prepared for the world around them. Because preparing, everything I'm mentioning is going to get you right for life, right? It's going to put you in a position in life where you're not starving, where you're not struggling, where you can produce generational wealth, where you can provide resources to your children when they're born, where you can put them in a position where college isn't a problem, traveling, vacations. Life is about perspective and experiences. And sometimes we procreate in such a way that we relinquish the option of even doing some of these things because we didn't prepare. We can't act like that's not a thing. If you have a child and you ain't got no place to live and you don't got no money, I'm not sure if you should have had a child in that situation. See, and these are hard conversations to have, but producing children in the world with no stability, no resources, you're lucky if they end up being productive members of society. So what are you actually doing to this world if you producing producing demon seeds? You know what I mean? Think about how many young Black kids you've seen that's hella bad, hella rambunctious, hair all fucked up. You can look at him and say, if somebody don't get to him, he gonna wreak havoc on all of us. This is a problem, and we can't blame this on white supremacy. We can't blame this on white society or racism. No. Some of those things have went into creating the environments we live in or the environment that sets up things we do, but personal accountability can never be taken off of the table. So going forward, how our young men procreate, who they decide to have babies with, who they decide to spend time with, this is going to shape our future. Think about that, family. Think about that. People always want to act like, because Young Thug, that brother's in jail right now. Hopefully everything works out with his situation. But he said something a few weeks ago that had everybody hot, where he basically said, if you broke, you shouldn't have kids. Now, I think the context and the clip that was taken was kind of like for shock and awe. But in general, people was flabbergasted with that ideal. Oh, if my mom would have aborted me, I wouldn't be a doctor now. I wouldn't be a lawyer now. There wouldn't be a LeBron James. My opinion, family, if a kid is born in a certain situation, you're lucky if he ends up being LeBron James. You're lucky if he ends up being a doctor or a lawyer or some type of profession of that magnitude. You're lucky. Those are one-offs. I think typically single parent, no resources, no structure, horrible environment, the child is going to succumb to that environment. I think that's what happens on average, right? There's always outliers. There's always people who are stronger, who know how to deal with things differently and maneuver around things. That happens, but we are products of our environment, and this society understands that if I create a certain condition, everybody doesn't have the wherewithal to maneuver around these things. A lot of you gonna get caught up in it, and that's what we've seen from our young black men. Because if we want to produce like better thinkers, revolutionary spirited individuals, young men who can help our community, who got college educations, who put themselves in a position. This is all possible. This is all necessary. We have to preach this to our kids. Having hella baby mamas is a reckless behavior. It's actually a reckless behavior. It's something that should be avoided. You should preach it to avoid it. You should frown upon it even. Yeah, we should make that cool. Having hella kids in hella different houses, we should frown upon that. We should not look down on nobody, but we should look at that like, damn, why you do that? That should be rare. That should be rare. That should be rare, family. We've gotten far away from where our families used to be. You see what I'm saying? And we can't just put that off on the next generation. We can't put that off on the man or the woman. This is both of us. But speaking from a man's perspective, we're the leaders in the community, and we start the family. We start the relationship. We start the journey with a woman. So it's up to us to navigate how that's going to happen. You feel me? So talk to your young man about this, man. I had this on my mind today. I want to make sure I shared it with the family. How we procreate, who we procreate with, all very important things. If you are a black man with a baby mama that get on your nerves, that put you through hell, I'm empathetic for you. I've been there, and I don't think that's right. But all too often, this happens, and the man doesn't say, you know what? Yeah, she giving me hell right now. I don't like what I'm going through, but this shit is my fault. I picked her. I decided to procreate with her. Yeah, you did. Having unprotected sex is saying, let's have a baby. That's what I as a young man, I couldn't grasp that concept fully. That's what you're actually saying. So now if she gets pregnant, it's out of your hands. Rightfully so, though, because you had the ability to navigate this situation however you wanted to. Having unprotected sex is throwing your dick on the crap table. It's not, I know men who have one or two children, and it happened in a particular way where they was with a woman in a relationship, things didn't work out, they end up having a kid. That happens, family, but we don't focus on the two-parent home part enough. I'm not gonna let us lie to ourselves. Again, I'm from the inner city. I'm from the hood where this happens a lot, where the dysfunctions and how we start our family is like it's running rampant and it's a negative thing. I'm speaking for those people because look, if we got black families who if we got black families who two-parent homes, nice neighborhood, I got a conversation for them, but it's gonna be a little bit different. Everything I'm mentioning today about how we can prepare a young black man for dating can work for any black man along like social economical lines. But if you don't have money, if you don't have resources, if you have one parent, if you grow up in a particular environment, these individuals in our society are really, they hold a very important position. Because when they change, when the lower of us begin to think different, it's gonna positively affect all of us. You see? So I can't preach to the choir. If it's somebody who's already figured life out to a degree and you're not doing some of these things, this ain't for you. But I need my brothers and sisters who don't do some of this shit to see the value in it. And when we get them, this is just like a team. When you're on a team, like I'll speak in basketball terms because that's what I'm familiar with. If you're on a team and it's 12 of y'all, typically the mantra will be, we're only as strong as the last man on the bench. Why do they say that? Because all of us have to be prepared. from the top to the bottom. We all have to be prepared to go to war, to take on this world. And if we have a section of us who aren't prepared, that section of us are vulnerable. They can be attacked. They can be manipulated. See? So we leave our brothers and sisters vulnerable who aren't procreating the right way, who aren't realizing they need to get rid of the generational curse that they're under right now, and know that they mama had a baby in a certain way, they grandma did things a certain way, and they're just following the cycle. If that's you, you got to break that shit. You can be the chain that breaks everything and send it to another direction, right? Because it's always about, not liking police brutality. We got the mass shootings. We got this COVID shit just popped off. There's always going to be some form of society that directly or indirectly attacks our community. I just need everybody to get in a mindset that you can do something. You can do something to circumvent some of this shit. And that's just not like voting and going along with the political landscape. Do that. But here's the things we can do amongst each other to put us in a situation where our young men are well prepared and equipped to take care of a family. I promise you, that's going to positively affect all of us. You feel me? So this is your brother Harrison, man. I want to make sure I mention that to everybody. Go ahead and follow me. Melanated Convo 100 on Instagram. I never say that, but go to my Instagram page and follow me. The Melanated Convo 100 is the Instagram page where you find the clips, different information that I post. On Facebook, it's the Melanated Convo whole page set up. A lot of the clips, shows that I post, all those things are there. Subscribe to the Melanated Convo on YouTube. I'm on all digital platforms, Spotify, Apple, all these places. If you like listening to content opposed to watching the video, go to one of the digital platforms, download the Melanated Convo, leave a comment, leave a review. I appreciate y'all, man. Our future is important, family. Like, start really giving a fuck about that shit. If you have young men around you, you got to talk to them. You got to be right yourself, but you got to talk to them. You got to understand the importance of them doing things the right way. That's the only way our future gets taken care of. Because if we see it right now, again, politics, politicians, political pundits, the powers that be, no one's invested in our liberation. No one is. No one's invested in making sure our communities turn things around. I'm sorry, family. No one is. So we got to be. You feel me? This is your brother Harrison, man. Melanated Convo.